The invention of a new drug creates a simulation where time passes as fast as 1 year, while in real life only 1 minute has elapsed. The greed of one of the inventors leads them to sell it to the government to solve the overcrowded prison problem. However, Ren invented the liquid to save her dying brother, sparking a conflict over life, love, and money. A close-up of an eye blurs into kaleidoscopic imagery, its dimensions morphing into a bridge leading up to a beach. A man and a woman sit on the shore, Rain and her brother Jared. She asks if he'd like to go for a swim, and though Jared seems hesitant, he agrees. They both wade out into the open waters, and the image morphs back into the kaleidoscope and opens up to an apartment staring out into the city landscape, with unknown eye drop containers littering the floor. A black liquid leaks from Ren's eye. A sign says go live in with an automated countdown of 6 days, the number slowly creeping down. An interviewer's voiceover remarks on Ren's exceptional academic record, which ended 4 years ago, and the scene switches to Jared, pale and unresponsive, being dragged from the water. She states that her brother drowned. They offer condolences, but she rejects them. Her brother is alive. Ren describes her creation as a biological software that can configure new memories for the user through chemical eye drops, what they call OtherLife. It's marketed as something that can offer you another life on top of your own, allowing you to create new virtual memories indistinguishable from reality inside your brain, all in a matter of seconds, with time extended as long as the user desires. It's being launched in 6 days. Ren visits her brother in the hospital, comatose from his drowning, and hooks him up to an OtherLife program. Later on the train, she receives a call from her father, but she declines. She arrives at a modern office building, sits down at a desk, and is immediately asked to clear a queue. She states she'll do this and launches into OtherLife, jumping from a plane and falling through the clouds before waking up in a lab, black dripping from her eye. The interviewer is back again, and she mentions Ren's father's extensive experience in this field and his disapproval of the technology, stating concerns about seizures leading to death. Ren agrees that there are risks with the abuse of any drug but insists it cannot last longer than scripted. She hikes a mountain, a white sheet of snow enveloping the landscape, and snowboards down the slopes, but she wakes up in an apartment. A series of repeated images flash before she wakes up, panicked, in a lab with Byron, her co-worker. The experience lasted 6 days for her, but for Byron, it was a matter of seconds. She doesn't indulge his hesitancy and insists she will fix the code. She gets up and immediately heads to a meeting in a dark, modern room with her co-founder, Sam, advertising the product to investors. He markets it as an additional life, more time for consumers to do whatever they like with, to live beyond their years. When he sees Ren, he pulls her up as his co-founder and asks her to expand on the science, seemingly encouraging one another's involvement. However, they strongly disagree with the direction they wish to take the company. Outside, she bumps into Danny, who is waiting for a date. She apologizes and blows him off. Instead of her date, she and Byron work on the code and finally crack the solution. She runs it again successfully. He asks how many times she's tested it, and she mentions it's been 482 trials, each one equaling approximately 20 days in OtherLife. Later, she tries OtherLife on her brother again, hopeful when she notices his eye twitching. She mentions this to the nurse, but he sympathetically notes that it happens with coma patients and doesn't mean he's coming back. She receives an email titled "Consent to Withdraw Life Support." She visits her father, the source of the email, who is a professor at a university and disapproves of her technology. But Ren is determined to bring Jared out of his coma with her script. Her father tells her he wants to cut Jared's life support, much to Ren's dismay. She argues that her father has given up on him. He leaves. At work, it's mentioned that there are unaccounted nanites, which concern Sam. Unbeknownst to him, they facilitate the OtherLife script for her brother, so Ren dismisses him. Once Byron leaves, Sam starts to share his most recent idea using OtherLife for prison sentences. This would free prison space and allow people to live out maximum sentences in their heads, lasting only a minute in real time. It would significantly reduce the government budget for housing criminals. Ren immediately rejects this, stating it's not the invention's intention. Sam blows up on her for not working on the product, and she leaves. Outside, Ren bumps into Danny, who shows concern for her agitated state, though she refuses to talk about it. They return to her place, where they are intimate. Ren shows Danny the snowboarding simulator, and he loves it, though he didn't expect it to feel so real. She proudly states that it's as real as everything else, with everything being chemical. After getting riled up about work again, she becomes absorbed in her emails while Danny asks for another turn. She ignores him. He goes ahead and tries again, but Ren is startled by strange noises and looks up to see Danny seizing on the bed. She desperately tries to bring him out of it, but to no avail. She realizes that he's tried the one simulation he shouldn't have, her brother's drowning. Ren is in a dark room, faced with Sam and a lawyer. She could have gotten away with it if any other experience was used, but her brother's one was under the table, and she didn't think it fit the adventure brief that Sam was going for, so she never brought it up. It had never been tested formally, and this could ruin the company. After some back and forth, Sam introduces Ren to some investors looking to make a deal. Either face charges or Ren can enter OtherLife and face a term of 1 year as a trial patient for alternative prison sentences. This goes against Ren's morals and feels like a backstab, considering their discussion only a day earlier. Though she venomously declines at first, she eventually gives in, knowing there's no other way for the company to survive. Especially since Danny was killed. She enters the lab with several officials, Sam, and Byron. She's extremely nervous because OtherLife tests have only spanned across a day of virtual time, as the product has a 24-hour use. No test has lasted as long as 365 days. After a brief introduction to the investors from Byron, he asks Ren if she's ready. She asks if he's run the exit routine and if he's ever had to follow emergency procedures. He reassures her briefly and drops the black liquid into her eyes. With a start, Ren finds herself in a dark room, small enough to be considered a box. Behind the bed, a bright digital clock that spans across the whole back wall illuminates the room. It says 01, marking her time in solitary confinement. She's initially panicked but soon grows accustomed to her new reality. Within this room, there are only the basics: a floor mattress, a hatch for food and water, a toilet, hygiene essentials, and a pen and tablet for working. The only food she's given is tuna and rice, a bad combination for avoiding mercury poisoning. But in the virtual world, she can eat as much as she wants. She quickly settles into the knowledge that she won't be out anytime soon. Ren lives a basic, disciplined life, eats, sleeps, exercises, and on her tablet, she drowns herself in work, making notes on how to improve OtherLife, including her living conditions and her brother's simulation. She frequently falls into hallucinations, unable to shake the thought of her brother's last day. Haunted by these images, she paces around her room, trying to delve further into her work, to no avail. She begins talking to herself, repeating mantras to convince herself that her brother can be saved, though her inner voice says otherwise. At her breaking point, on the edge of giving up, she stands in front of the digital clock as it tallies upward, reaching 365. The room bleeds red, preparing her to be woken up. She braces herself, but her preparation turns to terror as she realizes it's been 365 for too long. She should be out by now. The room lights return to normal, the number resets to 001, and the horror sets in. She begins to panic, shouting at the screen and destroying her bunker in terrified rage. Laying in the midst of her destruction, she regains her composure and comes to terms with her situation. However, just as her face falls into calm, she hears a whistling sound. In a virtual world, that shouldn't be possible. She investigates and finds a gap behind a sheet of plastic on the wall. Stepping through, she finds herself outside in a warehouse. Turning around to see the box she'd been living in, covered in plastic. Looking around, she finds a security room with hundreds of cans of tuna and rice and water bottles, as well as monitors overlooking her room. Just as she begins to look closer, she's spotted through the opaque frosted window by a security guard who rushes into the room. As she scurries away with his jacket, she steals a car and drives away. After ditching it, Ren learns about this new world she's emerged into. She walks down a street to find OtherLife advertised up the highway everywhere. When she tries to access her workplace, everything is empty. The only thing she can think to do is go to the police, who have a hard time believing her story when she's recorded living in Italy for the past year. She wants to show them where she's been kept as proof, but once she returns, the whole box has disappeared without a trace. The police don't believe her and leave Ren to stare blankly at the empty space she once lived. She tries to wander home, but after so long of no show, the apartment has been rented by someone else and her belongings disposed of. Amidst her lostness, she tries to sit down and process, but is quickly disturbed by Sam and a security guard knocking on the window. They try to bargain with her, but seeing her fear, her old landlord covers for her while she takes the back exit and just about evades her chasers, who are infuriated at losing her trail. With nowhere else to go, she visits her old coworker Cass, who is shocked to find her at the door. After giving her some food, Ren is overjoyed to taste something that isn't tuna and rice after a year of awful food. According to Cass, everyone was told Ren cashed in and left for Italy, leaving them behind without even a goodbye. Cass believes Ren's story because someone living it up in Italy wouldn't look like Ren after so long. Ren talks about the Danny situation, and Cass stops her because Danny never died. He was resuscitated not long after arriving at the hospital, and what Ren did saved his life. She's shocked and becomes overwhelmed when she arranges to see him that night, and he turns up alive and embraces her. Cass, Ren, and Danny head to a bar to catch up, and he tells her that the experience felt like he was drowning and he didn't know how to escape. Eventually, he woke up in the hospital and left after a week of testing. They also tell her what OtherLife has been doing this whole time. Though it's been commercialized for adventure experiences, a major part of its use has been redirected to the justice system, acting out momentary real-life prison experiences and forcing prisoners into an extensively long virtual solitary confinement. Ren states that she cares little for the company, but she's infuriated at the use of her invention for something so awful. From the beginning, the patent she procured from her father, and through the last year, Sam has stolen this from her. She needs it for her brother. Ren wants to expose Sam for who he really is. The issue is that it's their word against him. They need more proof. They formulate a plan. Using Cass's ID, Ren and Danny break into the OtherLife building in search of Ren's data for her brother, but they come across Byron working late in his office. Clearly about to run and alert someone, Danny restrains him with his arm, and Ren uses the time to search his office PC. She finds her data on the database and takes her hard drive. However, Byron has already managed to alert officials, so they hastily leave, but not before Ren punches him. Ren and Danny just about manage to escape, stealing the car, but Cass has been captured. To utilize the data, they need a printer for the chemical, as the whole city is on high alert for them. Ren realizes that they need to find somewhere secluded, reminding her of a house her father owns in the woods. They arrive there, and her father is nowhere to be found. Retreating into her data, Ren spends the next day working on bringing it to life, fixing the bugs and perfecting her research. She finally does it, falling asleep where she sits upon her success. When she wakes up, she takes a moment to appreciate Danny and her thankfulness that he's alive. They have time to soak up the morning in one another before her father returns home, where she tells him everything that's happened and what she went through. She realizes that very shortly after her disappearance, he filed a missing persons report. He's been trying to find her for the last year. Ren jumps into telling them about her simulation, where the one she gave to Danny and her brother was a multiple-choice experience. She originally wanted to give her brother the option to escape, which would lead him to wake up from his coma, but the one she made was not like this. OtherLife rewrote memories rather than creating additional ones or offering a new experience. With these concerns, her father says that he can refine the safety procedures and force Sam to delay further action until he can abide by those new features. Her father asks if it's complete. She says it is. With newfound hope, she drives to the hospital, where she finds her comatose brother the same as the day she left. She drops the black liquid in his eyes, and slowly he begins to gain consciousness, until he begins seizing in shock. She grasps him and cries, allowing the doctors to finally pull the plug. She cries next to his still body until night falls. Unexpectedly, Sam appears beside her and tells her that Jared chose to leave this world. Flashes of nurses and panicked voices blur into her vision. And an image of Byron telling Ren to wake up invades her mind. She's suddenly on a beach without her brother and stares into the gloomy distance. She realizes that she's still in OtherLife. She wanders into the ocean and lets it submerge her. The kaleidoscopic imagery appears again, morphing into the lab where Ren regains consciousness. Panicked, she gets to her feet, sees Sam, and throws a punch. She tries to destroy all of the evidence they collected from her, but she's pulled back by security. After a short time, she calms down and thinks back to her experience in OtherLife. And back to the interview where she stated that she just wants to offer people a chance to live a life that, outside of these chemicals, they may never be able to experience themselves. After her recollection, she approaches Sam to apologize for everything and withdraws from the company, giving him everything except the patent before leaving. He's furious with this. A coffin with Danny's name written on it is surrounded by the flickers of fire, and Ren looks solemnly at the flames that envelop who he once was, finally able to accept that he's gone. Coming to terms with the fact that he's gone, she realizes she's ready to do the same for her brother, too, knowing deep down that the only thing she can do for him now is let him go. She asks her father to come to the hospital with her and is packing up what she needs before leaving. But before she even makes it to the door, she receives a call. It's Sam. He ominously tells her that she needs to see something in person, unable to specify over the phone. Reluctantly, she goes. Byron and Sam are hovering over the laptop she attempted to destroy and analyzing her brain patterns. They realized that she was able to escape from the prison they put her in. They're excited. This could be marketed as an interactive experience rather than a simple simulation following a script. Sam tells her she needs to help them and go back into the experience, but she refuses. He decides to force her, and though Byron was hesitant, he is easily convinced by the temptation of results. They hold her down and pour the black liquid into her eyes. Back in the prison against her will, she is initially angry, but Ren now understands how to manipulate her own creation. Using her mind, she interacts with the experience and speeds through the days, waking up by herself while Sam and Byron have their backs turned. She stands up, catches the liquid still dripping from her eyes with her finger, and launches onto Sam, fingering that same liquid into his eyes. He's forced into the same experience, but he has to live out all 365 days. Ren watches as he gets through the days, but the system crashes before then. Byron insists they wake him up to avoid him perishing. She refuses. She waits until he's done 366 days until the number resets to ORSAR1. Like it did for her, and he's lost hope of leaving, he finally wakes up, and all he can do is sob. Ron leaves. At the hospital, she and her father embrace as they let go of Jared, accepting that he's gone, just like Danny. They mourn together, and like she experienced in her other life, she returns to the beach where she last saw her brother truly alive, and she sits there, looking into the distance, accepting her fate. Thus, we reach the end of this film. Thanks for watching. You can like this video to support us. Don't forget to subscribe for more content. See you in the next video. Goodbye.